I want you to share with everyone the very interesting little nugget that you shared with us in the meeting, and I saw you posted a little while ago as well.
Well, what happened here is that obviously teams are talking to Jacksonville about trading for Ramsey. So there is a team in the league that actually called the league office earlier in the week to see, okay, if Jalen Ramsey plays on Thursday for Jacksonville, can he then play for us this weekend? 2 games, 1 week. And it was explained to the team, no, it's 1 game per week per player. Not more.
I wanted to start there for 2 reasons. One, I just find
Dominique loves that.
I think everyone finds it fascinating. But 2, I think it is also informative. It suggests that this stuff is imminent, right? We're using the word imminent to describe a trade for Jalen Ramsey?
Listen, Jacksonville is determined to get its price. Jacksonville wants 2 ones for the guy. Do I think Jacksonville is going to get 2 ones for him ultimately? I don't, but I don't think it's going to be terribly far off. And so Jacksonville doesn't feel like it has to move him until it has what it wants. And I think that they're not going to move him until the Jaguars have what they want. Whether that offer comes in this weekend, next week, or right before the October 29th trade deadline, we'll see. I think what happens here is there are a couple things that influence it from week to week. There'll be teams that are in the playoff race that win more and more games, that become further intoxicated with the idea of advancing in the postseason. There'll be teams that are winning that suffer an injury, that need to replace a guy. Or there could be teams that are talking to the Jaguars that lose games that all of a sudden fall out of the playoff race. It could happen this week, but it also could happen a month from now.
Correct. And so I get it. So it's fluid. But the other potential thing that could happen that we don't mention there is that if Jalen Ramsey keeps playing, he could get hurt. If this was the NBA and we were talking about Anthony Davis, which we were 7 months ago, we were talking about the Pelicans not playing him because an injury would diminish his trade value. Does it make sense to you, Dominique, for Jalen Ramsey to be playing right now if the team is trying to trade him?
I think it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to sit him, but I would still play him because I think the Jaguars, though they're 0-2, they still believe they have a chance. And there are only 16 games in the season. They can't drop a game here or there. It's different when you talk about Anthony Davis and the Pelicans. The Pelicans knew that they didn't have a chance, and they wanted to preserve an asset who, frankly, had somewhat of an injury history. Jalen Ramsey does not have that history. I understand that it's not without risk, but I think they should play him.
Anyone at this table would sit him? Is there anyone here who would say, you know what, if I'm the Jaguars right now, I don't play him? No, everybody would.
Not a chance, okay? The season is so young. They still think they're alive. They think Gardner Minshew is a good young quarterback, and Nick Foles could be back in November.
But then you don't trade Jalen Ramsey at all. You don't trade your best player.
Well, I said to you, they're not going to trade him unless they feel like they have a great offer.
But I think the question is, why trade him at all if you think that you have a shot this year?
The problem is, and the situation is now it's erupted. Because Jalen Ramsey, the true beef doesn't lie with Coach Doug Marrone. It lies with Tom Coughlin, who insulted Jalen Ramsey during voluntary workouts. If you don't recall, Tom Coughlin said the hard work that many try to avoid is the building block for this team. That comes when Jalen Ramsey didn't come to voluntary workouts. Doug Marrone, the head coach, played good cop. He went then and said, you know what, it's voluntary. I trust he's working hard. Jalen Ramsey will win in this situation. Because if you play him or if you don't play him, he's going to end up where he wants to end up. So ultimately, Jalen Ramsey's going to win.
Well, I want to say, listen, I want to say this. I think a big part of the frustration here, well, obviously, number one, he wants to get paid. Make no mistake about it. It's money is always behind that. But number two, if your skill set's not being utilized to the way you feel that the way it should be, I think that's still like the impetus as to why he wants to be moved.
So that's part of it. Tom Coughlin's part of it. And to get back to the money, if they had paid him the contract that he wanted, I'm sure he would have been fine with Tom Coughlin by now.
And here's the problem, Chef. Like, the saying, nobody wins when the family feuds. You have a first-round pick, an all-world player who will be dominant for the next 10 to 15 years. Jacksonville, just find a way to make him happy because you win nothing by trading away a lot for a maybe good first-round pick.
This is, without question, right now the biggest story in the sport, and it could, depending on how that falls, wind up determining a Super Bowl this year.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.